for Dr. India.
Good morning and thank you. I'm not going to use the mic. It kind of cycles me. So if I get too low, for those of you in the back, just go like this and I'll raise my voice. I have 4 kids, so I know how to raise my voice. They're all grown. That was the job. I will say this, that being in education, since I've been in it 39 years, I haven't started when I was 5, right?
Right.
It was not what I intended to do. I was going to be a speech pathologist because I did want to work with kids, but I was a teacher's aide to get myself to college. And my principal came looking for me because I took a year off after I graduated because I took a point from home to senior because I was getting out of college. 4 years, I was done. And she came and looked for me because she had a long-term substitution in a kindergarten class, which I absolutely did. And then the next year, I was fortunate that there was a second grade position available because the person was out on maternity leave. She decided not to come back, and she became my classroom. And I actually got my contract my first year teaching. So obviously, there was something about what I was doing that was the right place for me. So I've been in it ever since, and I'm at the university level working with students who want to be teachers. So it's a calling that I didn't even know. I wasn't a little girl then, I wanted to be a teacher. But I absolutely love it. The reward is in seeing your faces when you're learning. And I think that's why all of you do, right? The kids and everything. As Naomi said, I did run Apple Academy Church Public School. Amazing space to be in. Would have never given it up, but difficult to be an elementary school instructor. I'm just going to say it. But I know that what we did for kids was holistic. The other thing that I did, which is directly related to this high-dosage tutoring, before it actually was labeled that, we do that in education. People do something for years and years, research things behind it, and then they give it a label. I was a literacy coaching consultant for 12 years, and we went into schools K through 12, and we taught teachers how to teach reading. And in doing that, particularly at the high school, we had to teach high school teachers, because you had kids who were reading at first grade level, sitting in a high school coffee room, and they did, like, they taught English, and the kids couldn't do it. And so we taught them how to implement interventions in their classroom on a daily basis, but how to teach those beginning reading skills to students who don't want to be told they're reading at first. Very successful. When you see that light go on, just for an example, for those of you who speak Spanish to understand this, because the sounds are different. And so you have Latinx children who the light went on because they used to say yellow for yellow. And so when we were teaching them the difference between those sounds, it was so funny. One day she goes, "Oh my God, I've been saying chicken for chicken all this time." But the light goes on, and English is a difficult language every day. You've got all these different expectations, and you know that's what it is. I-D-4-E stepped up to years and sounded like A as a neighbor and way. And I use that to this day. But if our children don't know those little techniques, it means nothing. So one of the things I'm going to talk about as I get to the instruction is that when you are working with tutors, they don't know what I know that I've been doing for years. And the really important piece is what do we give them so that they can provide high quality instruction, and how do we train them so that they become stronger with it. All right, so I'm going to get into this. Hopefully turn it on. All right, so as Naomi said, this is being sponsored by Crystal in partnership with Wooten, but also thanking Weingart and Connection. It's really important that we know those people who are providing this for us. So I want to start with what high-dosage tutoring is not. For years and years and years. And not that this is a bad thing at all, but it's not going to address the needs of students, because I'm sure those of you who work with students will agree with this. They come with their homework. You know that teachers fight it, but they don't have a clue how to do that homework, right? And it's because they don't have the correct skills to do it. The teachers keep going with the curriculum, and if they're not doing any of that personalized instruction in the classroom, they don't have time. Or that they don't take time. One or the other of those to get to those skills that student needs to be able to do that. So it's fine to do homework help, but it's not going to get to what we're trying to get to for our students. So instead, we're going to talk about this high-dosage tutoring, and sometimes here high-impact tutoring are the same thing. But this is how I kind of describe it. We know that it is research-based, and that's the good piece about it, because you always want to be using something that has evidence that it works. And it is fairly new evidence. It's even evidence being done, research out of Johns Hopkins, so people are interested in it. We know that it's, and I don't think that people realize this one piece, and it's so critical, it's relationship-based. It's not just, and I just have to say this, Mr. Casey, he did used to work with me at my school. Every student knew Mr. Casey by name. Students wanted to go to Mr. Casey for math because they knew that he could help them. He could give them skills. But Mr. Casey also went to their football game. Mr. Casey knew with their parents, or about their parents, because he had a connection with them. He built a relationship with them. And yes, it's easier when you're in a school. In fact, a lot of the research is around high-dosage tutoring in school. But we want to figure out how to match that research outside of the school, right? That would really be the goal, that somebody can say, these organizations in South LA, they're matching what the school intervention is doing. And so that really is the goal. And so it's also about addressing those prerequisite skills, because we know that's what's missing. Not addressing what the teacher is teaching in the classroom on that day. If I'm missing something. And I don't like to call it remediation at all, because it's not about remediation. It's about accelerating learning. And that can be for all students. It's also high quality. It's people who are dedicated to it. And we're not talking about you, we're talking about the tutors that come in, right? They've got to be just as dedicated and just as high quality as you are. And so, everybody knows this, I think, or even seeing it multiple times a week, but with a consistent result, not changing that piece, right? And then it's both academic and social emotional support. And I'll tell you, the social emotional support is almost a given if you're building a connection with that student and building a relationship with that student. And I can say from teaching, even if you don't like the student, because they probably don't like you either, you can build a relationship. It just takes a little more effort, right? I would tell you, I don't think there's any child who doesn't want the love and attention of an adult. Right? No matter how hard they are, this is typically from the trauma that they've been through, right? But that's what they see. But they're going to test you. If you think about that, all they're ever doing is testing you to see if you're going to give up on it. That's it. We know that this addresses educational equity, right? And we know that our students have been the ones who have not had that equity for so many years. And then finally, it's a value-added asset. Like, we are adding value for teachers in the classroom. And so it's that mindset, really, that this is a growth process for everybody involved. Not just the students, but even for us as the adults. The research has shown that it's effective. That it's effective for more than 4 months in elementary literacy, 10 months in math. There's a lot of research. You'll see even other numbers to support that. But notice that what they're saying about literacy and math, and we'll talk more about this. What they're really seeing is that reading focused interventions work best as TK1. And part of that reason is that that's where foundational skills is taught. There's other research. If a student is on grade level, by the first grade in reading, they will make it through. If they're not, 85% of students without specific intervention will never catch up. First grade. And then I think everybody knows the third grade, right? What do they do instead of focus on reading with third grade students? Right? What? They build prisons around third grade. Yeah. Whole different conversation. So it doesn't mean we don't do literacy with students who are older, but you do have to know what you do to get that. So you're going to get this PowerPoint. Anywhere that you see these underlined are links. You'll be able to link into your report and things like that. So some of the characteristics here we're talking about. You've got to spend substantial amount of time. You've got to build those strong and sustaining relationships. You have to have oversight of your tutors. Like, it's not just sending the tutors out, just work with the tutors today, work with the tutors. They've got to have that sustenance for themselves. You got to closely monitor, and that's where the personalized instruction comes in. And then you want to align with the school curriculum as much as possible, right? You do have to make the connection between what they're coming and doing with you and what they're learning in school. And so it's not only with the school curriculum, but we're also talking about the school curriculum. Sometimes easier said than done, right? Yeah. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Because remember, we're a team, we're all on the same page. And so teachers should want to interact with personnel from the agency. So this is a framework for high-dosage tutoring. Okay? And again, you all will get this PowerPoint. So take whichever notes you want me to show you on the guide. So look at the bottom here. The underlying pieces for any strong high-dosage tutoring program are equity. Not equality, equity. We're talking about not this child getting the same thing as this child did, but giving a child what they need. Safety. It has to be a safe environment for students, both physically and emotionally. We'll talk about tutors and matching. Because if you have a student with a tutor and they're not in that relationship, they may not be able to match. And sometimes that's kind of adult expectation of who that student should be and how that student should act. Right? And if it's not working, it's got to be changed. So it's got to be safe. And of course, we're talking about everything. I mean, especially now with PPD and all of that. So you have to think of all the safety precautions. And then cohesion. Everyone involved, from the leader to the tutor to the funders, has to be cohesive. Have to all be on the same page, have the same goals, have the same objectives for it to work and be strong. So that's underlying every decision you make. Decisions about tutors, decisions about instruction, data use, and learning experience. So you have to think of all those pieces. So let's start to talk about the tutors. So one, you want to have a diverse format. I'm going to say this. As I'm going through any of this, if you want me to stop and respond to a question that you have, I'm more than happy to do that.
So my question is twofold. Because of what we know going on this first grade of what is suggested, should our focus be 0 to 5? Because no one ever talks about that 0 to 5 marketplace. And we're talking about children in kindergarten already. If you're saying within 1 year, they should be able to read. But they don't have any problems. Why are we not focusing on 0 to 5? That's my first question. And second, role of family. What does the role of family play in the success of this kind of program?
So let me go with the first one. So one of the things, and this kind of goes to funding, there's a lot of money right now on early childhood education, a lot. So you could choose to focus there, particularly if your agency tends to work with that base level of students. Beginning reading, I want to just make sure that when I talk about that, maybe in the first grade, we're talking about those foundational skills, primarily physical learning, right? So they're not going to have all the skills for reading. They're still second and third grade, where you more. So beginning from reading. It's a choice where you focus. It's a choice when you focus your energy with the students that you're working with. So if you are an agency that works with that level, I would work with that level. So I don't know if you're preschool.
We do from 3 years old, we were active. Okay.
Okay.
But I'm thinking of other schools who have an early childhood providers, like trying to get them on this kind of program.
Yeah. No, I mean, it definitely is going to pay off when you get students really young. And the role of family varies from when they are below school age, right? You can typically get parents more engaged And literally, so we have to keep in mind, parents have a lot on their plate, right? So we have to be realistic about what we're going to ask them to do as being engaged. With the younger children that you're talking about, you're asking them to read to their child, whatever language they read in, is huge. That language development. And so that's one thing that you can just focus parents on. You can also give parents things very minimal, because remember they don't have any background. The pandemic, we asked parents to do this. And with no help. Right? So the fact that they did very well keeping their children up to wherever they were is huge. So you got to think about chunks to give parents. So for example, with the phonemic awareness I'm talking about, we're talking about rhyming. You can give parents with the rhyming words. You're building a skill. I would look, and honestly, I would focus on those phonemic awareness, getting parents to help their child with 13 different classes. Because it's not that hard. And that's going to provide the strongest basis with the oral language development. Did I answer this? Pretty simple. Sure.
So for example, we do the same thing for math, that if they don't, by a certain grade level, they don't fully understand the development, does that mean they need to be protected either?
Math is different because it's very linear, right? And so there are prerequisite skills. Numeracy, like younger students, it's just, you gotta make learning fun for young students. We take the fun out of learning. Just to get older, right? And so it's keeping that, you can make a game out and get anything into a game. And students are gonna like it. And with the technology, I mean, we have so many different things that we can do, but it's sometimes getting away from the basics is where we do. So because math is linear, there's not that same research because each skill built. All right, so with tutors, you do want to have a diverse pool, and those soft skills. Nobody teaches soft skills. Some of the soft skills we just have where we don't, but most can be taught. And one can be both. We talked about consistent, well matched. The growth and development of the tutors are going.
Soft skills.
Oh, I'm sorry. Empathy. Kindness. Like caring, nurturing. Just those soft skills that you can't measure. You just see it. It's in their behavior. Someone's their behavior. So when you're looking at your tutors, when you're interviewing them, we know the right answer to say everybody knows the right answer. You have to think about, what am I going to, and I like scenarios. What scenario am I going to do here that I want this person to respond to where I'm going to see? We're about to interview for an advisor for my successor. And I'm seriously, no, not the advisor. It's administrative support. So the first person to they want. I literally, while that interview is sitting there before we start, I literally want to have a student come in and ask them a question and see how they react. Right? I think to be welcoming and say, oh, I'm so sorry, I don't ignore. Like, that's going to tell me that's the kind of person I want. So you've got to figure out, what can I do in the interview where I can get an idea of the soft skills I'm using. I'm wrong.
So we get the students to interview.
Correct, Megan?
We got the students they involved in the interview and all that.
The best way. Yeah.
The best way to know whether
It
they
really is.
work with the kind of background people to work with.
Yeah. I actually did that when I was at Apple. The lesson, and I would find out what the students So when we think about the pool, I don't know if you thought about all these different spaces to optimally hire. Obviously, when you get teachers working on our program, they have the most skill base already. We all need growth and development. Those who are substituting. We have a lot of students this last semester that into the credential program. Some of them are still working on the performance assessment that they have to pass to even apply for their credential. and they chose to substitute. Yes, they're still in learning mode, but they have a basis, right? The volunteers don't necessarily have. You might want to look for recently credential people who finish their credential program. Not necessarily graduates, because those are the ones that are coming out of that. You might want to look for those. Contact the university. We keep in touch with our students and tell them when there are opportunities to come. Obviously, paraprofessionals. A lot of students who are on the pathway to teaching want paraprofessionals. University students who are in classes, our early field work, we send their students out once up to 36 hours a semester. They tend to, even when they're doing that, they want to work more. Obviously volunteers, a lot of you work with volunteers, but they are volunteers. Do they have that level of time to do IT? And you might just think about using volunteers for one thing and other people to recruit. Retirees. A lot of people retire from education, they don't retire. They keep working. And they want to have that contact with students. Mid to late career changes. I used to work with mid to late career changes who came from the STEM field and believed they wanted to go into teaching. And so we put them in some experiences and some found out, yeah, no. You work with students, great set of people. And then some corporations still have their people donate time. So if you haven't thought of some of these, at least it will help to expand your pool, because depending on how you choose to implement high-dosage tutoring will determine how many students you actually need. Yes, the idea is one-on-one. The ideal situation is 1-to-1, but high-dosage tutoring can be done with 3-to-1 or 4-to-1. So you kind of have to think through how you want to do that and how big your pool is. Because, I mean, I'm going to be honest. I connect with 30 students every semester. Like, you can't be in my class, and I don't come to know about you and learn about you. These are important things, right? I used to know, baby. Yeah. Because they're different, and so you learn something. I mean, we're children. They're all different, right? All the kids have children, we have kids. They're all going to be different. And so it's that thing, you just have the connection. You have the relationship. So that's why you don't want to go over that though. Because what you're going to lose not only is possibly the ability to make the connection, because it requires that person, but you're going to lose the personalization. So that's why you keep it small.
And also the students, they connect and then they can also help you. Because I was a pre-K teacher and I went into elementary, so the things were different. Actually, this was in 2000. We had to be computer literate. And I had learned the math, and they were on the IBM. So I was, I had got the children busy doing their lessons, and I was on the computer, trying to, get my skills up with this program. And I just said, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. And the children heard me.
No, you are good. You are so right. That's what I said. We're constantly learning and growing, and we learn so much from the students that we work with. All right, so let's talk about dating and its use, because data is important. So, talking about assessment, different types of assessment. I have to understand the use of these assessments. So we have diagnostic, and I'm going to talk more about that with the next slide. We have formative, and a lot of people mix that up with other things. Because formative includes the student's self-assessment of their life. Students have to know where they are, where they're going, and how to get there. Not of telling them, this is where you are, this is where you're going, this is how you get there. We can tell them, but that doesn't mean they understand it, right? So you engage them. So formative assessment is all the assessments we use to form our knowledge of where they are. So we do know that. But it works when they get involved in it. Okay? And so it's going to be a really key piece of what we do. Progress monitoring is keeping track of where they are. But not just on a piece of paper with numbers. Data is not always numbers. A lot of people think of it as always numbers. Data is quantitative the numbers, but also qualitative. And so we need to be considering other people, especially when we're talking about politics. At times we're ingraining behavior within the academic system. One of the things that you can think about is efficacy. How well am I doing as a student? How well am I doing as a tutor? How well are we doing as a program implementer? And so there are measurements out there that you can adopt or you can create your own. My individual data as a child should not be made public to other people. I just maybe in a classroom. Not motivational. It should be between you and I. Because again, with that student self-assessment, I'm going to sit down with the student and say, hey, you started here. You got into here. What do you do? Like, it's about asking questions rather than telling them. Okay? Or, here's where you are and this is where we're trying to get to. But I see that you're struggling. Tell me where you, I like to use this cheese. Tell me where you're holding from. It's not that students, I hate when somebody say, that kid can't read. They can read. They're not proficient readers. They may not be a grade level reader, but they can read. And so, but if I know this is what I'm trying to do, and I figure out, oh, this is how I've got to get there, then I'm more tuned in and focused, and I know that you care, then we got to get there together. Unless they're well done objectively against rubric, subjective teacher judgment is not correct. Especially when you get into high school. So yes, you can use it, but you need to use multiple measurements so that there's some triangulation. Like this should match this within a certain level, right? Because if I'm well behaved, I might get an A, and that annoying kid's going to get a C. Just because. Their work may not be as strong. And here's the thing, it might be meeting the objective, but not well, not as well as that child. And when I'm grading, I'm grading, this is done really well, I did this for myself. So there's some subjectivity in grading. The work that comes into the social-emotional is how do we engage the students in the curriculum along with us so that they see there's a reason to learn this. Don't even focus on the grade. Focus on improving their skills and their knowledge. They're going to see the grade improve on the other side. I mean, like, are you going to intentionally get a C? I think the pride comes in later when they start to see their grades improve and they realize that it's okay. It's much bigger than what you all can do sometimes. When you're talking about relationship building, it is the child first, but the parent engagement will be again later because communication with the parent is key. Like regular communication. And the tutor should be communicating with their actual age. Not necessarily talking to the parent about what the student's doing. He's not working firsthand with the student. So that may take some training. How I work with the parent. Particular parent can get away with where they give you 2 minutes. So that is part of the training. There's a lot of things that you want to have integral to training. You have parents who, because that's the only reason they get called, they don't know why they don't need to be called. Because it's so used to it, you only call that every day. So that's what's different about your agency. That's what's different about kind of students. We're communicating with you all the time. And even if it is about behavior, always start with something positive. All of them. Yeah. That's not good. Teachers lower their expectations. Right. Again, it's when you think you know who the child is, and you're not giving them what they need. The other thing I like about what you said, I can't even say what you said at first, but we can't continue to ask kids, what do you want to do when you grow up? Whatever you said is a question to ask. I forgot what you said that quick, but it's you repeat. Yes.
I say every place to students, you can be anything you want to be. But you have to have the soft skills. You have to be able to negotiate, communicate, organize, have a management, have a love for yourself, and what a reason there is high expectation. And that takes work, right? For you, I can guide you through that. We can fulfill that. You have to want it, right? You have to give them that want. And they go back to school, and I'm really proud that a lot of people in LAOC knows Miss Yolanda, because they tell them, Miss Yolanda tells us, I can be great, I can be anything, I can be brilliant. So, hey, you're telling me today I'm bad, that doesn't resonate with you.
Right,
So
right.
you're giving them ownership of words that empowers them to take control of their learning, right? And I think that's what tutoring, really great tutoring does.
Yes,
Right?
yes. And it is about asking questions, listening, letting students do those critical thinking skills, even about themselves. And I think, I think that's what's missing sometimes from tutoring, general tutoring, and even homework help. We're not asking the students the questions to get them to think first and to problem solve. So with data collection, part of what you want to do is determine what data do you want to collect, right? And then we need different measurements so that we can get to this actually working. So some of the areas would be around student engagement, tutor effectiveness, and then program evaluation. Now you can have additional ones, but these are some of the key ones that are really going to give you that well-rounded piece. I'm going to show you some examples as we continue to talk about it. Let's first talk about a diagnostic, where we do get baseline information from students, but it's got to be more than one way to get it. So workers might be one area. We're about to talk about an area, and we're going to share a little bit about what they're doing. You determine when it happens. The diagnostics have to happen at the beginning of every year, so that we can have that baseline and where we're going to take them to the end of the year. Sometimes it depends on where it's going to inform what we're doing, and then allow us, and a lot of people miss this piece. We need to know their strengths. It's not just about what do they not know, what is their need, what is their improvement. We have to know their strengths and build off of their strengths. Tell them their strengths and how that strength is going to help them with learning this next step. It's missing in classrooms. And so we're doing it. The day a student asks, I know we're doing this, but what do I already have? You can help me. Like if a student can turn that around and ask the teacher that question, very powerful. And then they're low stakes. There is no grading behind diagnostic assessment. There should never be a grading system. So we're using iReady. And this is a little bit about iReady. I know there's some other people using iReady because it was in the survey. Who else uses iReady already? So a couple of days. All right. So part of the reason, again, evidence-based research, right? So iReady has that. It's the way that they design the instruction. I know of a couple of other things that are kind of designed like this, but they're not a full assessment. And so one of the things that you're doing with this is getting to a space where they have personalized instruction. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to make it up because they also provide a lesson. So it's one of the reasons that LAUSD recently approved iReady. But look where they approved it. It is not just one. They've approved it for math, 6-8 for English learners. And they've approved it K-8 for state-identified schools. So they've got this coding. So there are certain schools that identify. So it's only there. Right? However, the agency you're supporting more students than LASD is actually calling. And I'm pretty sure that's a right? You're only funding. Hopefully, and I'm going to say a black children. Not to negate our brown children. But in those state identified schools is probably the only way where it places they're going to get it. And so those students who are not in state identified schools should do that. Which is why it's so important. So I'm going to ask Wooten to talk a bit about their use of iReady. Why did you select iReady in the first place? Did you use it for a little while? What are you seeing from what you're doing with iReady? And then how do you see it moving forward, knowing that it is something that's going to be more widely used? And then after they speak, Either of the other two that are using already, if you want to jump in and share something, that'd be great. I know.
So I'm gonna start with the why, and then this is Stella, our associate director, is gonna talk about the process. And then we have our ELA and math, teachers here, and our education director, and they'll just comment, but generally the why. You know, at one time we were doing homework only, right? And you're sitting, you know, helping your kids complete their car homework, we say that in school, right? But the problem is, I mean, to you it's very simple, but the child can't read the instructions. You know, you're supposed to be helping him do the questions, and he can't read the instructions, right? So you're, you know, and so, sorry.
Go ahead and keep talking.
So it was just very clear that we needed to stop and do more than homework. And so at the time, our education director, she was the LA Unified teacher, and she knew about, I'm going to tell you something interesting. So she knew about iReady at her school, but she said they weren't using it. They brought it and it was in the closet. So they weren't using it. So, which she was not thrilled about, and so she told us about it. So she connected us to it. And so anyway, that's why we started, because we saw that homework wasn't enough. And so Mr. Michelle wanted to share what our process was like.
We're going to talk a little bit later, but one of the things that everywhere is communication, like information sharing. Why do we hold on to information that other people need, right? Our parents need that information, but so do the teachers that these students are going back to, right? So why not share those reports? Yeah, they might do better. I know if I'm going to at least read it. And if it makes sense, then I now see that there's someone else helping this child. There's nothing but good that can come out of that, right? All right. So since that was a lively discussion, we're not going to have you guys do this right this minute, but when you get to your tables later, possibly, I want you to think about what do you collect? What kind of data do you currently collect? But what's the purpose? Sometimes people collect data, and there's no purpose. If you're not doing something with that data, ask yourself, do I even need to collect this data? Don't waste your time if you don't. And then who do you collect it from, and why? What do you do with the data? How has the data come? And then thinking about similarities and differences. So we'll get into a little bit of discussion because I do want to make sure that we get to your work time. A lot of what you're seeing today is coming from the Student Support Accelerator. So a lot of the links are going to take you to this organization who has done tons and tons of work so that you don't have to create a lot of stuff. Right? And when I first looked into this, that's what came up. There are so many links, so many incredible pieces. And so I'm going to share some of them with you, but I want to acknowledge this because there are some of them that are working. So some of the data collection around tutors and students, we have something called Pulse Check. I'm going to share a couple with you. But we also need to think about what do we want to create for families, or maybe even the schools we work with. Again, we want to have multiple measures, right? And if you have parents coming to you who are saying, this is the difference between my child, that makes a parent want to get engaged, right? When they start to see what they probably haven't seen from their child going to school every single day. Okay? And so what can we create is very free, because we don't want to send parents with long surveys, right? Just something very free where you can get feedback from them, but also from the teachers at the school. It's the way you get people engaged when they start to see the success of something. So this is an example, and they literally give it to you in an Excel sheet or Qualter, if you happen to be using that survey tool. But these are what the tutors answer. Because you need to know that the tutors are aware, I'm going to call them reflections. And by the way, I think students should be doing reflections at some point when you're assessing them, whether they're seeing success or not. Doing reflections is part of their own self-assessment. Tutors doing self-reflection. So some of these are going to give me information on what type of professional development do I need to do with my students. Right? Because if they're coming in, somebody just mentioned the teaching nervous that they weren't going to be able to teach something, right? You hear that from them, but what do we do with that information? That's data. So some of it's going to inform the professional development that's needed. Some of it's going to inform the social emotional for them. There are times when we forget certain things. For instance, with iReady, you can't just give iReady the results to a tutor. You need to take them through iReady and how it's used and what they get from it. So I'm one that I don't ever make assumptions about what somebody knows or doesn't. Right? And so that's why I ask you straight up, what do you already know about? I don't assume that you're walking in here and they're going to play. So we can't make that assumption about the students regardless of the student we're talking about. So this is an example of one of the student post tests. This is an example of a student post test for kindergarten through third. PK through third. Right? A lot of people think we can't ask kindergartners about something. But you can. Now this one happens to be about people. Doesn't have a thing to do with academics. But this tells us how they're engaging with it. Like if you have a student who doesn't like that, you know that. Except for me, I tell you, I have had to do some things at 15 goals. But this will give us, it's important to ask our students how they feel about school. We've got to make a connection between what they're doing with us and school. Because they've got to begin to enjoy school if they're going to continue to learn as a team. Now the fourth grade and above, they have all kinds of questions. They have questions around the tutoring experience, their attitude about their attitude about the subject, self-efficacy, do they value? So again, this is all, you can pick and choose which ones you want to ask. There are so many of them for the older grades. And some of them are appropriate for secondary students as opposed to upper elementary. So that's why they use that student accelerator. They've got tools that are already developed for you. But I really, really like the post test. They also have extended surveys. So if you want to do something towards the end of the year, you're going to come out. So now let's get into instruction, right? The most effective research-based is the student engagement in transformation. Right? 3 or more sessions per week. For the lower grade, 30 minutes reading focus. For any of those above, math goals. Now that's the research. Not saying that you don't have some effectiveness. This is the highest level of effectiveness. You can't not teach every grade student, right? You've got to be able to fill those gaps. So that's all the good things. It needs to be aligned with school curriculum. So really we talked about standards. So that's what I read is connected to that. Evidence-based. There's so many programs out there. Go after the ones that are evidence-based. And again, it's not remediation. You don't want to sit a student down and say, we need to remediate. You have these people. We need to do it. If you tell a student we're accelerating your learning, you know what accelerating learning means? Talk to them about it. We're accelerating your learning. That's all they need to know. They don't need to know if they're behind. We're going to accelerate that wherever it is. Even for students who are already accelerating. And then supported by script. And what I mean by that is the lessons that they were telling you about. We used to use something called Lexia Core 5, which is a reading program. And the best part about it was, when you found out where the students needed skills, there were lessons and materials. And so, and they were well done lessons. And they picked it up. So even if they didn't have the background to really understand themselves, maybe, you just do it. The only trouble you're going to get is a student asking a question that goes deeper than some people say. But like the teacher said, they learn from it. Because most of us, how many people in here don't really remember how they learned how to read? They just remember. Anybody? Anybody remember that they learned phonics space? I remember in kindergarten, it was very phonics space. Some people won't know this, but you can James? I remember that. Yeah. Tell you how old I am. And so I remember that, but I never remember struggling to read. Right? And so colleges back then, you didn't, the credential programs, they didn't really teach you how to read. They taught you how to teach comprehension. So as a teacher, I remember getting a third grade young man who didn't know the alphabet. And his dad felt guilty because I know he lost not knowing how to read. I know he learned the alphabet, but and I feel guilty because I'm like, where's Kevin? You know, where is he? Did he ever get a teacher who actually knew how to teach how to read? So when I learned how to teach reading, I know that there are tons of teachers out there that have not had that step by step. This is how we actually do it. And so it can be done. It takes probably a couple of years to really get comfortable with doing that. So how do we help the people coming in that we don't have that time to do it up front to be able to help our students? And that's why it needs to be supported. So if we are looking for something, in addition to iReady, that's what we want to watch. Yep.
Letter A.
Yep. So I will just say this, programs don't teach children. Like iReady's not teaching the kids. The people picking up the instruction, just like you said, Mr. Hilton. Before we weren't doing the lesson. That's why you weren't seeing what you can see. So, all right, this is the last piece, then we're going to take a break, and then we're going to come back. So learning and break, and then we're going to on the dot. But this is something I thought of. The research says that the most effective high-dosage tutoring occurs in school classrooms. And as a teacher, that's what I used to do. I have small group instruction every day with students based on their needs. Right? How do you do that in the actual program? So I just have this thought, is there any way the organization can integrate itself into the school? Just a thought, I don't have the answer. Or instead of schools, you can serve students. There's a thought as you start to think about planning. How can you connect tutors into the classroom? And we may be talking about how do we engage families? We've been talking about that. And I like to say, with it, right? And then finally, highly successful programs connect the intervention to the school. I have learned to do. Really connect the intervention to the school somehow. It's increasing that ability. I do want to bring this up. I don't know how many of you saw this, but LAUSD is now offering 24/7 tutor stop contact. So I say to you, is it competition or is it complimentary? Complimentary. So competition. Even though this is like a teacher employing 300 or a large number of people, and students can hop on and get that help, right? What if they turn the kids on for you? Right? I don't care how good you are at developing relationships, it is not the same virtually as it is in person. You can do it, but it's different. I went back after Zooming with students for almost 2 years. I've seen these students on stream, so we were synchronous. They came back on campus. Math didn't help. I couldn't call their name. I just see, but when I'm in person, I knew almost all 795 students because of what I do. Like, I have to call you by name. And it made me feel really bad because I'm like, so how personalized are you going to get in that relationship building? So yeah, this is a great thing. Because there's a variety of things that students can get on for, but you can't touch what you're doing. So I would say, yes, tell students this is available. Even tell them this is what you should probably jump on there for. How many students are going to go on at least 2 times a week for at least 30 minutes? Probably not. And if every time I try to get on, you can't get to the tutor, I'm not going to do that. So this would be great for some students, but not for all students. All right, so planning. Well, going back together. So, there's a later slide that talks about kicking it off and a continued update. They will become invested, just like you are, because they see what's happening right from the beginning. So some considerations for implementation. So just some things. Do you have support? Like, first, the parents don't know about it, the community doesn't know about it. How do you have support? The more support you have, the more assets that will come to you. Is it clear the why you're doing it? Start with why. Anybody turns out that book? We all have a purpose. What's the purpose? And getting it out there. And the students need to know, especially our oldest students. Is it time to plan for it? Like, for some of us, we're rushing that plan right now. How many of you have been in a situation where you're building the plane while you're flying? But keeping that focus, it can be done. It can be done well. Are you currently staffed and have that capacity? That's going to determine how quickly you start up. Don't, and I'll be honest, don't start if you do not have the capacity. Right? It's better to start to get the word out there. Get the parents involved, start talking about it, start training, and then say, but I'm not going to start till January. Yeah, you're not doing it at all. Just get yourself where you are staffed and have that capacity and train. And again, some of the training is in the process, right? But that will force you to be ongoing, right? Because one-stop workshops have never worked. Never have. If you just stay here and there's nothing continuing, what are the chances you're going to do it if you haven't done it? I want to do it, but that's in 2 months. Are there competing interests? And so we decided that the tutor.com is not competing. But are there other things in your community that do compete? Even if you think they are, I bet they aren't. And so you have to find a way either to work with them or have a complement. And then what about the funding side? I honestly believe because it's becoming more and more prevalent when people are hearing about it, just like anything else that happens, all of a sudden you're going to be funding. Just like with early childhood. There never used to be funding, there's funding now. So I think funding will come this way. You just have to be steadfast with it. And then again, the more, all funders want reports from you, right? They want proof on things. The more you have of that data, the easier it will be. You have to identify your key players, right? You're the executive director, CEO, whatever you want to call that title. You cannot do everything yourself. This family's not in here. Cannot do everything yourself as an executive director.
You should come.
And so you just have to know what to do. In any organization, you can accept the list because automatically the founding CEO, principal, human resources, facility, there you
I do so much as well. I don't even have to see if I can take that.
And we do it because it's our heart, we're in it, but it takes the soul. And so as you're starting this, start it out thinking about who do those key players need to see? Do you need a tutor coordinator? Do you need somebody who's actually responsible? City, thank you. Wouldn't come out.
I'm part of Public Allies.
Okay, so that's another one.
That's part of our mentor.
They have all kinds of things. Demetrius just got a grant along with several CFPs. So there's one thing, money came in, the governor gave all this money, there's a big thing around it. I placed K-12 fellows. And so that's something to go after. Because they're being paid. So the ones that I'm working with right now, we're sending to schools, but we could do organizations, right? It's pairing up and knowing that people want the fellows to come to them. But you don't have to pay them. The the money's through the grant, so they're getting paid through us. Right. So that is maybe a little more. What skills do your tutors need? You might consider proficiency screening. So what I mean by that is we developed, when I was a literacy consultant, we developed a tool, basically around foundational reading skills, and we would give it to the teachers that we were working with. So we knew right off what we really needed to focus on and what we could just review. And so you might think about giving something where you kind of know what they mean. And then you know how much development is necessary. There's no evidence on the amount of training to get that, but what counts is that they're teachable. It's hard to teach somebody and coach somebody if you go in and you're trying to help them to improve in something and they're getting offensive. And so then the modality, and it was a question. Do we do virtual? Do we do face-to-face? Is there, anything on effectiveness with those? Obviously with the virtual, we're talking about the digital divide. I don't care the fact that everybody was supposedly on Zoom. It still doesn't mean that everybody has access to technology. Right. No matter what they say. So it's almost like surveying your family. They may have internet, but it goes in and out, or there's 10 people on it at the same time. So that should help you in your decision on how you offer, when you offer, whether it's virtual or online. They did say that noise canceling headphones make a big difference, especially when you have small groups. It also may be good for your volunteer time. Because if I'm working in downtown LA and I'm trying to get there by 4 o'clock and traffic takes up my time, I can go home. So considering those sorts of things, but also having digital relationships over here. There's also that you can do your upper grade every other day. So thinking through, who needs to come 3 days straight? Who needs a 3 days straight as opposed to kind of do it every other day? Like it's just little things, little details that may make a difference in how you're able to utilize volunteers more effectively. And then, of course, the most effective by research is face-to-face. That makes sense. Have you considered Saturday sessions? Gentlemen, my Chicago Bulls gentlemen over here was talking about Saturday sessions. Yeah. And so maybe you won't get consistency 3 times a week, the consistency with that Saturday too. Yes. Right. So they're thinking through the modality and the funding. Now this first one is a question for me and that I'm going to check into. Schools have money, more money than they're spending in the right space around the extended learning, acceleration of learning. I don't know if there's a way to tap in. Because it says extended day, right? You technically are extending the day. Right. Particularly if you work with certain schools closely, I would go asking them, there's some way we can, there's something in the law that allows us to do that extended day. Does it say it has to be on the campus, or can we work together? Knowing that we're doing this. So looking for creative solutions where somebody else is saying this like the national level. And then strategic use of philanthropy. So that's key, because you're all going probably at the same level. And people can only fund so many. So maybe you put your heads together and say, we're going here, we're going here, we're going here. So you're not all tapping all of the same people. These are just some other components from literature, going from more effective when you're talking about tutors, the ratio, as well as the curriculum, to much less effective, and you see it over on that side, right? And then after lunch, you go. So here we go. Going to somebody else. Because there usually is somebody else taking child up because they can't. So it's just working through that and knowing that it's going to grow. Only a link to put on the page where this is that will have. I didn't want to give tons and tons of documents. I want to choose the key ones, and so I'll make sure I put this one in there because I didn't 2 or 3 pages. So something that you can actually give. A whole bunch of people are doing High-Dosage. So if you want some research behind it, you share with parents. You got Tennessee, you can see Brown University, like I said earlier, Johns Hopkins and Robert Flavin is doing the work. So at least you have more if you want to get more information even for yourself. More resources in the student accelerator. They've got all these different areas that can help you, particularly if you're starting new. Like you want to know what tutoring expectations, how do I want to discuss it with students. So there's resources around that. There's how to facilitate. Don't assume students know how to facilitate. Right? So that's really what they're doing, they're facilitating learning. They're not teachers. And maybe if you plant that in their heads and they won't feel like they have to know in so many things. They're facilitating. So all of these are sitting in the Student Support Accelerator. There's webinars that you can watch. And there's usually time, you have to watch the whole hour and it's like and stuff. And then finally, there's the PRESPA link. There's also a webinar coming up. I saw this. Literacy coaching for SEL. So it'd be something, I'm sure they'll pay this. It's through the International Literacy Association, so yeah, they're charging. But it might be worth the investment of having somebody watching my bad off of my iPad and film stuff. I do. So the other day, I don't know.
My name is Brittany Chine. I am from the Housing Authority for the City of Los Angeles, Nickerson Gardens Housing Development, which is a housing development in the city of Watts, LA. So what brought me here today is pretty much the title. The title is High Learning Tutoring or High Developing Tutoring. And the community of Nickerson Gardens, there's a huge need for that. I work with ages 18 to 61, and one thing I've observed is that a lot of the individuals over 18 have 3rd grade, 4th grade reading levels, which saddens me because it makes it hard for me to either place them with employment, put them through training, or anything of that nature. So learning starts at a young age. So this high-level tutoring program is hugely needed in the community of Watts, specifically Nickerson Gardens, because they're going to start these tutoring programs at a young age. We have the space, we have the learning pods in Nickerson Gardens. We also have a tutoring program. However, we need to strengthen and want to strengthen that tutoring program, and that's why I'm here today. And what I got out of this was more than what I expected, and we are actually in the process of Naomi and her team, the Al Wooden Center, coming to Nickerson Gardens, doing the tour and seeing how we can implement that high-level tutoring program in Nickerson Gardens. So I'm extremely excited about the next steps because I really want these kids. It's difficult for parents to help their kids with tutoring and with school if they don't have that education level.
Hi, my name is Mr. Casey. I work with the Wooten Center, work with the education, specialize in the mathematics department. And this meeting was very informative because it's understanding that there is a problem with the education system and there are workable solutions. One of those workable solutions is high-dosage tutoring. We want to make sure that the students are able to receive the information and yet practice information with competent individuals to help them continue to give the information. All students can achieve. It's a matter of us doing our part to help them achieve.
Yeah, it's your boy Duran, I host and gives the most. And first and foremost, I want to thank Ms. Naomi and the Wooten Center for giving us this opportunity for high-dosage tutoring training. What I took from this is how to set up your tutoring program properly to have success. I also took from it the resources so we can actually go into the schools next week and start taking advantage of what we learned in this training. I'm also looking forward to 2 weeks from now hearing everybody's feedback on what they learned from this training because it was very powerful and impactful. Thank you again, Ms. Naomi and the Wooten Center. Whoop, 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 whoop.
Hello, my name is Beverly Matthews. I'm the Education Director at the Al Wooden Jr. Youth Center. From the workshop today, High-Dosage Tutoring, I got out of it by Dr. Edmond the holistic approach that we need to take with students, that will create a relationship, building that self-efficacy, parent engagement, making sure the
tutoring. Tutor is connected with the parent, how you use alignment with your data, such as not just report cards or if they have an IEP, but other self-reports from the student. How do you feel about school? What are their challenges? Where's your Swiss cheese? Where are the gaps that you need so that we can help you? And also making sure we are connected and build relationships with the teachers and the school so we'll know what's expected in the school day and how we can better support them so that we can make sure that all the needs are met for the student. But it was a wonderful workshop. We plan to utilize and implement it from the research-based resources and the monthly meetings they have so we can continue to follow up with what we learned today. But I'm so happy I came today. It's been a pleasure, and thank you to Chrysler, Connectica, to Weingart, to the Wooten Center, all the agencies that came together to bring this wonderful workshop to fruition.
Hi, my name is Naomi McSwain, Executive Director of the Al Wooten Jr. Youth Center, 91st and Western in South LA. And we're just finishing up with our developing a high-dosage tutoring model workshop, and I am full. I am full with excitement, I'm full of hope, I'm just full of gratitude for everybody that showed up, for our trainer, Dr. Lori Inman, for Connected Credit Union, for providing this gorgeous facility for us at no cost, for sponsoring us, for the Weingart Foundation for their funds, and especially for the Community Response System of South Los Angeles, Robert Saucedo and Cheryl Branch. It would not be possible without them, without Chrysler. Chrysler has been bringing us together since June 2020 to deal with issues, impacts of the pandemic in the South LA area since the start of this pandemic, and education has certainly been one of them. And one thing we recognize is that to really give our kids the support they need, we have to go beyond what we've been doing. We can't do the same thing, because the same thing that we've been doing, our kids have continually been behind year after year after year in their grade level proficiency. So something has to be done different. Something has to be done to make a higher impact. And that's what high-dosage tutoring does. So to see all the agencies, people that were represented today, Avalon Carver, just a number of different agencies that are gonna go back. Nickerson Garden, that's one we're gonna follow up with their tutoring program there, just to make it better, to be able to give our kids the support, the love and support and the care that they need and that they deserve to be the best that they can be. So that's why we're here today. Like I said, I'm full of hope and full of gratitude. I thank God for it, and I thank you for it, and I'm looking forward to the next step. So come to our monthly meetings. Go to Chrysler, that's crssla.org/events. We have a monthly education committee meeting, and the one in September is going to be hot because it's going to be a follow-up to this workshop. So we hope to see you there. God bless you.